All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I'm here with a good friend of mine, John, who runs a few different channels. The main one is what is it called? Serious and Silliness
Serious, yeah,
Bodybuilding.
yeah. Serious and selling this bodybuilding. Serious and selling this outcast. And then I have serious and selling this guy talk, but I really don't pay attention to that one. It is just basically, it's really just two channels now. I kind of gave up on the third one. The third one, I was trying to attract simps because I kept having OnlyFans girls on, but it wasn't working. I was like, well, if they could do it, I could do it, but
Oh
it
yeah,
wasn't working.
I hear you.
Maybe if
What
I
uh,
concentrated on it a little bit more, but I just wasn't.
what drew you to doing a channel about bodybuilding?
Well, I mean, I was doing bodybuilding forever. I've been in bodybuilding in some way, shape, or form since I'm 15 years old. And if you go back to my old channel, at first I was just serious at selling this before I separated it, and I was having like it was like a combination. I would interview anybody, and I had a lot of bodybuilders on, and I realized, I know mostly about that. I know everything about it, and because I competed and worked behind the stage, I knew guys. So I'm like, I might as well just start a separate channel, and that's what I did, and it's starting to really do well. It's only about a year old.
That's really good.
Thanks, man.
Year old. Yeah, I enjoy it, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like it's a niche sport. Not a lot of people. I mean, people think bodybuilding is just going to the gym working out, and it's just not the case. It's a sport, and it's a competitive sport. And I tell them all the time. I talk to young guys in the gym or whoever. I go, if you see an actual professional IFBB bodybuilder, it is night and day compared to a big guy at Retro or LA Fitness or something like that.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
It looks like a building walked in the building. It's not. It's not. When we were kids, like Dorian Yates was like 300 pounds on the off season, and that was like, my God, he's 300 pounds. Now they're all over 300 pounds.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
they're
That's why they
monsters.
have
It's
like the
unbelievable.
new league, right? The one with Bumstead. What's his name? You know?
Yeah, well, what happens is, well, they did it all for money. But what happens is they have what's called classic physique. Well, originally, what they had was they had bodybuilding. Then they started physique, which looks like it looks like an Old Navy commercial, just legs. And I mean, chest upper body. You wear these swim shorts that go to
Oh
your
yeah.
knees. You don't judge your legs and blah blah blah. And it was doing pretty good. Uh, it didn't get a lot of respect because you're only judging your upper half. So what happened was they just came out with a smaller version of bodybuilding called it Classic Physique, and it's a poster with remnants of the Schwarzenegger days and the Tom Platz days. And so it's just and there's a weight and height cap, so you can't get that big. But these guys, they come in peeled. I mean, they come in chiseled. But I'm a fan of the big boys. Like I'm a fan of the mass monsters. I
The
love the
open. Yeah.
yeah, I love the open. But that classic physique really opened up the door for a wider audience. Like all these young kids know who Bumstead is. Nobody has any idea who Mr. Olympia is. Like on the open, they have no clue. But everybody knows who Bumstead is. And Bumstead was on Valuetainment, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
With
I mean, I
Patrick
know
and
a few of
David.
them. I know like even the more recent one, like the Hadi Chopin or
Yeah,
whatever how you say. He was like,
yeah.
but he didn't win this time, right?
No, he
Another guy
lost.
won.
Yeah,
How do you
Derek
feel about that?
Lunsford won. I thought Derek deserved it. I thought it was very close. It wasn't like a blowout, not at all. But Hadi was really pissed off about it. And if you
Yeah.
watch the footage, I mean, he did shake Derek Lunsford's hand, but then afterwards he took his second place medal off and he walked off stage when they were trying to take pictures of the top five guys. And he has a reputation of being a sore loser backstage. But what he's doing now is he's trying to prove a point, and he's from Iran, and he always had a hard time getting a visa to come to the States to compete. So what he's doing now is he's coming to the States to do the Honor Classic because he wants to win that one and prove that he's still the champ, and then bring that title because it's considered like the American title because it's
Mhm.
Honor Classic and it's in Columbus, Ohio, and it's the second biggest title in the world in bodybuilding, and he wants to bring it back to Iran. So he's ready, but it's not going to be easy because there's guys coming in that are really good, and the young blood that's coming up, these young guys coming up, they're just getting better and better and better. It's like any other sport; they just get better and better and better.
Yeah, you're
So
constantly pushing the limits, right?
always, oh, and
Well, one thing
always,
I was wondering, like, so classic, is that like on a scale of like enhancement? Is that less enhanced? Are these guys like more natural, or are
no,
they doing the same stuff that open is doing?
no. What's happened? This is what's happening. They do it with the girls and they do it with the guys. They literally find you a class that you could fit in. So there are guys that genetically just can't get that big. There are guys that can, and they might turn pro. They might be early in like their competitive years, maybe in their 20s. And if they tried doing the open, they would get killed because they're just not big enough. But they don't have the time to put the size on. So some of these guys have used it as a stepping stone, like Derek Lunsford used it as a stepping stone. I think he was in the 212 class, and then he moved up to open. But no, they use the same gear. They use the same crap as everybody else. Everybody thinks, oh, you don't have to use that bullshit. It's just, look, good genetics is also how you react to the pharmaceuticals as well. Right? There were certain guys that could just look at weights. Like Phil Heath was one of these guys, and Ronnie Coleman was one of these guys that could look at weights and grow. And then when you hit them with anabolics, it was just an explosion overnight. Ronnie Coleman turned pro natural. Kai Green turned pro natural, and they had to be convinced to try it. And then once they tried it, they became the best in the world. That was it. Yeah. So no, they don't. They take as much shit. Some of them probably take more than open bodybuilders.
Yeah, it was something you highlighted when you say like how, genetics is also how you respond to the anabolics. I think a lot of people don't realize that. I kind of first started because, like when I started doing TRT fairly recently, I had a neighbor, and I got him, this back in Phoenix, but I, started getting big and strong, and I go in the gym, energy. And so he's like, well, what are you doing? So I told him, and I convinced him to go to my clinic, and they actually gave him more than they were giving me because I guess his level didn't rise as fast. But I mean, he went to the gym with me. He did everything. And I swear you couldn't tell a physical difference.
It happens all the time.
He was taking more. Yeah.
There were guys in the gym that you could nah, that guy's not taking anything. And 100% they're taking it. I've had guys in the gym that would come to me and talk to me and whatnot. Because at this point, I'm like the OG in the gym. And I'm like 47 years old and whatnot. And I remember this one guy was he's like, I'm taking this. And he's taking 3 or 4 things. He's like, what else could I take? And I'm like, at this point, dude, you're asking the wrong questions. Because if you're hitting a glass ceiling at this point, you're either doing something wrong with your training, you're doing something wrong with your food, you're doing something wrong with your sleeping, something else is wrong. Because if you're not improving and you're taking all these anabolics, it's at the point where now the anabolics are not progressing. It's not that. It's something else. Or you reached your genetic point where that's it. But this guy wasn't. I mean, the majority of people, you've seen them when they go to the gym, they go through the motions. They're not pushing themselves. They're going through it. And it's good that they're doing it. But when you see a pro bodybuilder, like when you go back and watch a guy like Ronnie Coleman or Dorian Yates, the reason why Ronnie Coleman's in such bad shape now is because how hard he used to train. He used to train to the point of exhaustion where he couldn't, I wouldn't be able to keep up with it. And the amount of weight that he would push and he kept pushing the envelope, that's why he's so damaged today. I mean, it's not the steroid thing. It's not that. But these guys train to the point where they throw up, to the point where they pass out, to the point where they can't move or walk or whatnot. And unfortunately, that's what you have to do to be a pro elite bodybuilder because, the muscle has to adapt to the punishment you're giving it. Like the best example I ever heard of muscle growth was Dorian Yates. He was actually on Joe Rogan, and Dorian said, picture your hand is is your muscle. And he goes, if you take sandpaper and you just scrape it a little bit, well, your hand's really not going to adapt too much. You didn't do too much damage to it. Then you take sandpaper and you scrape it to the point where it's bleeding, and then you wait about a week. Well, then what happens is it's going to get calloused. It's going to adapt to the punishment that you gave it, and that's exactly what muscles do. So every time you want to break through the next layer, you have to punish the muscle even more, and that's the whole idea of bodybuilding.
Yeah. When you say punish, what do you do? Like, you're talking about just more sets or more reps or more weight or a combination of all those things?
Yeah, it's a combination of everything. Basically, what you want to do is you want to train to the point beyond failure. So like most people train where they let's say they do a set of 10, right? And they get the 10th one and they struggle on the 10th one and that's it, right? They do, let's say bench press, and they do 10 and they struggle on the 10th one, that's it. Well, these guys that are really pushing it, what they'll do things like drop sets. Well, they'll immediately drop the weight and do another 10. and then immediately drop the weight again and do another 10, and then immediately drop the weight and do another 10. So the point where you're working past failure. There's another style where it's called forced reps, where you have a partner and you get 10 on your own and you struggle on the 10th one, but he's kind of guiding you in the next 10. He's helping you in the next 10. So you're training past failure. There's drop sets and there's supersets where you're actually, going from one movement to another movement. Then there's giant sets. The problem with giant sets is you need the gym to be completely empty. That's the problem. Like if you don't do it at 5 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to be able to do a giant set. And a giant set is basically doing pretty much every piece of equipment you could possibly think of for, let's say, back, right after another. One right after another. Boom, 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 till the point of exhaustion. Then you do it again. Boom, boom, boom. But the problem is when the gyms are packed, you really can't get that done. But there's so many and when you watch these guys train, you can see it. You can see to the point they can't walk, they throw up, they pass out, they're shot. And that's what people don't understand. I see a lot of guys in the gym that, like, you could tell they're still doing the workout they did in high school, but now they're 35 years old. And it's like, well, you got to kind of get past that dude, right?
Yeah, I mean, I try to push myself. I do a lot of like just waiting. Like when I struggle, and I can't do the last one. I'll just take a few minutes and rest. Then I'll go back to it, and then I switch between heavyweight, and then I'll just go light and maybe just do 20 reps, and over and over and over until I can't do it. Then rest some more.
Yeah.
Problem is, I start, as soon as I start going heavy, I start having problems with my elbows, and it starts hurting. So then I got to take a little time off. And it seems like lately, especially, they always got something, either my knees from doing squats and deadlifts, or my elbows, especially from different exercises.
Well, I go through it too, and there's ways around it, right? Because I'm 47, so I still like to train heavy, but I can't do that as much as I used to, right? So there's ways around it. Obviously, wrapping your knees with good, powerlifting wraps. They really support your knees. You have wraps for your elbows or elbow sleeves that support your elbows. Also, the right amount of glucosamine chondroitin helps with elbows and knee repair. There's things like glutamine. There's also too, if you're going too heavy, like this is what problems I. My squat was always my best. Movement. There was a point I could squat five. I think the best I ever did was like 545, full squat all the way down. I did it like once, but then I had an operation on my neck and my back, and I had like parts of my spine fused and so on and so forth. So I couldn't do that anymore. So what I did was I just lightened up the load, but then I just continuously do more sets. So now I don't go past like 3 plates, but I'll warm up with 1 plate, then 2 plates, and then I go with 3 plates, and then I'll squat till I'm exhausted, and then I'll do it again and squat till I'm exhausted, and then I'll do it again and squat till I'm exhausted, and then I'll do like 5 or 6 reps of that, 5 or 6 sets of that, and squat till I'm exhausted. So I'm not pushing the weight, and I'm taking the emphasis off my knees, but I'm still putting that pressure on the muscle. So it's kind of, especially when you get over 40, there's kind of ways around. I mean, I have to do so many warm-up sets before I get ready because, I got to, warm up and, get the kinks out and whatnot. I do anywhere from like 4 to 6, sometimes more warm-up sets before I really get into the workout.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's not, when you get older, it's more difficult. It's a lot more difficult. You're not young. You're not bouncing back. I remember I used to just go into the gym and start squatting or start deadlifting in my 20s.
I never did warm-ups.
Yeah, now it's like I got no choice.
Now I do, definitely. Well, you're stronger if you warm up, which when I was young, I never
100%.
thought of that. But, if I'm going and instead of jumping to like 250 on a bench press, I'll just do some reps. Then I'm stronger. I can actually do a better workout with the heavier weight.
And also it helps, and nobody wants to, admit this, but the TRT does help.
Oh, yeah.
And it helps a lot because, and it also, what also helps is, unfortunately, you need a prescription for it, but there are clinics that licensed physicians will prescribe you growth hormone, which is great for repair and great for older guys that want to repair muscle and joints and problems. And it also lubricates the joints and so on and so forth. And that worked. But, unless you have like a growing problem, you're not going to be able to get it through insurance or so on and so forth. But you can go to a clinic. You have to spend some money, but you can go to a clinic, have a doctor give you blood work and have it prescribed to you. And it's completely legal, just like TRT.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about growth hormone because, I don't know. It's just so many bodybuilders, swear by it. It's part of the culture,
Yeah.
everybody's using it. I mean, how much does a difference does it realistically make? Because a lot of people are talking about, it causes like your ears to grow, maybe
No.
your intestines keep growing and stuff like that. Like I always
Yeah,
worry about that kind of thing.
it's just like anything else, man. More is not better, right? You got to keep it under wraps, just like testosterone, just like any other anabolic. People think, oh, if I take more, it's better. But with growth, it's the same way. If you go to a clinic and you do blood work, the doctor will tell you how much tell them your goals, and the doctor will tell you how much not to go past or whatnot. But I've been using it for a couple of years now, and I don't go past 3 or 4 units a day. And I see a tremendous difference in the gym, and tremendous difference in my physique, and tremendous difference in healing. But it's when you abuse the drug that it becomes a problem. It's when you get to 8, 10, 12 units a day. I mean, it's insane. And then it becomes an issue. Then you have problems where, bones and heart and things like that grow. But it's just like anything else, man. Like, an average dosage of TRT is very healthy and good for you. But once you go past a certain point, it becomes unhealthy. And it's the same thing with growth hormone. It's the same crap.
What would you say is like the biggest benefit you've gotten from growth hormone?
Growth, well, probably the repair of muscle, definitely repair of muscle, and also, just healing in general. Like as you get older, if you hurt yourself, it takes you a little longer to heal than it was when you're younger. But then when you take growth hormone and you're on it for a period of time, you see that when you hurt yourself, if you strain yourself or pull a muscle, you'll heal relatively quicker than you used to.
Hmm.
The best analogy I ever heard about growth hormone was it's like putting gasoline on the fire. It just makes the fire bigger, right? Um, and this, as guys that are in their 40s or older, even young guys, unless you are looking to really compete and you have a future in competing, you know, uh, just a little bit is fine. Some of these guys, they take so much and they have no idea what they're taking. They take so much and they're just wasting their money, wasting their time, and possibly hurting themselves.
Yeah,
But
because like the cost of the HGH is just 10 times what
yeah,
your TRT or any other substance would.
absolutely. Well, TRT, most insurances cover it. I think I got a bottle of TRT. I think it cost me $10 for with my insurance.
Mhm.
Yeah, but growth is not going to. You're not going to cover it unless you like. My friend's son has a problem. He's shorter than most of the kids in his class, and they have to give him growth hormone, so that's covered, right? But if you want to use it for working out, health reasons, and so on and so forth, they're not covering it. Forget it. You
Yeah,
got to pay out of pocket, and it can still cost you 1,000 a month.
yeah.
You know.
Is that something you take once a day or multiple times a day?
Yeah, well, what happens is, well, it depends which one you get. Some of them come pre-mixed, and you could just, you just inject it. It's an insulin pen. You could either
Yeah.
usually put it in the side of your waist, or you could put it in your shoulder or whatnot. And some of them come not mixed, and you have to use a particular type of water and mix it with a solution. But and basically, the most you would do is like twice a day, like once in the morning, once at night. That's about it. You
Yeah.
know.
Have you ever did you try like those peptides before, like the
I've never
ipamorelin?
tried. No, I've never tried the peptides. I've never tried peptides, and the things that I don't try on my channel, I won't discuss unless I have somebody else on there that knows. Like I have plenty of elite bodybuilders that know about peptides, but I've never tried peptides. I've never tried um, insulin. Uh, I've never tried IGF-1. I always kept it. I always kept it basics. I always kept it, anabolics, growth, and then that was it. Especially when I stopped competing, it was like, oh, what's the point? When when I stopped competing, I was in my mid 30s, or yeah, mid to late 30s, whatever. And I'm like, what's the point of taking all this crap if I'm not competing?
Yeah.
But to taking a little bit of testosterone, taking a little bit of growth hormone, it will help you tremendously.
Oh yeah. Well, the like I only ask because like the ipamorelin and like the
Mhm.
CJC 1295 DAC or no DAC, these actually are also doing through clinics, so you can get it through docs that prescribe it as well. So I'm like, damn, so this must have some merit, right? But probably
I'm
nothing
sure it
like
does.
taking two
Yeah.
units or something.
Yeah, I'm sure it does, but I have, to be honest with you, I would have to do more research. I never did enough research on, because I would only do research on stuff that I would use,
Oh yeah.
right? So like tomorrow, if I wanted to use peptides, I decide I'm going to use peptides, then I would start researching it and talking to people and so on. So, and that's another thing that these young guys do that's a problem. They don't talk to the right people, or they don't follow the right people on social media. They follow these social media influencers that are in their 20s. They have no idea what they're doing. And just because they have a six pack. I mean, look, dude, if you're 22 and you don't have a six pack, I mean, I don't. I remember being in high school and everybody took their shirts off and they're all in shape. I mean, give me a break. I
Yep.
mean, yeah, it's like so. But these kids, or even not even just kids, just anybody that doesn't know, and they listen to these. And what the problem with the social media influencers is, they all try to reinvent the wheel because they all try to like rewrap something and sell it as new. It's like, oh, this is the secret. This is what you need to do. The worst guy I've seen was that Greg Doucette guy. He proposes. He talks about things in his supplements I've never heard of. I don't even know what the hell he's talking about. I have no clue. And he's not. It's ridiculous, but it is
Yeah.
what it is. And
Oh
there's
no, I
plenty of people
know
like
what
that.
you mean. Once you go like start watching like workout videos, you go down that rabbit hole, all these videos of these people come giving advice, and it's very frustrating. I see some people, big guys, older guys, and they're over there talking about, oh, the best stack is like, this MK677, and you take this with the Rad 140, talking about like SARMs and stuff. But then if you look it up and you actually go to a bodybuilding subreddit or like a forum, people are saying that's nasty sides, totally not worth it, won't
Yeah.
do anything for you. But yet this guy's talking about it like it's the holy grail, and then in the comments, a bunch of kids going buying the SARMs, taking it.
Right. Right. Right.
You know?
And it's not even it's not even just that. I mean, I've seen even regular over-the-counter supplements. I saw a video with Big Boy. I don't know if you Big Boy knows. He's a power. This guy's a monster. With Big Boy, and he has, I think, it's the Strength Cartel. And it's a bunch of guys. They have a huge podcast, and they train all the time. And they're big dudes. Don't get me wrong. They're monsters, right? But they're taking a whole container of pre-workout, and they're pouring water right into the container, and they're drinking it from the container, and they're sharing it, and they're drinking it,
Oh
and they're sharing it,
Jesus.
and drinking it. And I'm like, yo, you don't realize how irresponsible that is, that what you're showing? Because I remember being 15 years old and wanting to be big and do whatever fucking the guys at the gym told me to do. You know what I mean? But it's just, well, I want to sell my product, so that's the case. And I talk to people all the time in the gym or whatnot, even the guys at work. You want to listen to these guys that have been around the block and have accomplished something. RX Muscle is a good one. Charles Glass is a good one. Chris Aceto, George Farah, Hani Ramad. These guys have been around the block and have trained champion bodybuilders, and there's nothing they don't know about biology and the drugs and the supplements and working out. These guys are the best, the elites in their field. But they don't go and look them up. They look at the kid up, or the guy just the big guy or whatever, and it's just ridiculous. And one analogy that I use all the time is, before I started working where I work now, for 10 years I was an electrician. If you want an electrician and I come to your house and you go, how long have you been an electrician? I go, a month. And then the next guy comes in and he goes, how long have you been an electrician? And you go, 25 years. Which guy are you going to go with? Right? It just
25
makes no
years.
sense. You tell the guy that's been in a month, get the fuck out of my house. you know. But their kids are just, and as long as they're making money, these guys don't give a shit. And it's sad. It really is. So if you ever come and watch my channel, which is Serious It's Bodybuilding, I'm only going to give you what I know. I'm going to give you the truth. And if there's things that I don't know, I have plenty of people on that come on every week that know, and we talk about it all the time, right? And we don't just keep it to anabolics. People think you take steroids, you're a bodybuilder, and it's like, no, 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 that's nothing. That's the easy part. To be a true bodybuilder is a lot. It's a lot that entails in sleep and food and supplementation and working out and so on and so forth. You
Yep.
know,
I mean, it's so grueling. It seems sometimes you got to ask, is it worth it? Like, I feel like those guys are not paid enough, winning the number one spot. Well, I guess the Olympia is the only one that really number one gets paid. A lot of these guys are struggling and they're paying all of these, stuff they take out of pocket,
yeah.
struggling for years. and only a few at the very top really get the recognition and the money.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things. One, it's a niche sport. So, you're not going to have 50 million people following it, right? It's just never going to be that way. The other thing is that you're not going to get major endorsements. Budweiser or Walmart is never going to endorse bodybuilding because everybody knows they use anabolic steroids and growth hormone, and nobody wants to feel affiliated with it. Even though everybody knows that other athletes, football players, baseball players, but they use it, but it's not out in the open where bodybuilding discusses it. Say, yeah, this is what we actually use, and so that's never going to happen. So it becomes very, very difficult to raise the money when the endorsements, the majority of endorsements are supplement companies, maybe food prep companies, and so there's only you rely on ticket sales and live streaming, so it becomes very, very difficult to pay these guys what they're worth. Yeah, Mr. Olympia gets paid $500,000, but the guy who wins, like Chris Bumstead, gets paid 50,000, and before, but if you market yourself right and you do social media and you do personal training and so on and so forth, there are guys out there making a good living, a very, very good living. Chris Bumstead needs 50 grand like he needs a hole in his head.
Yeah.
The guys work a ton of money. Same thing with Jay Cutler. I don't know if you saw, but Jay Cutler was on Shark Tank last week. You see that?
Oh man, I watch Shark Tank all the time, and I didn't
Really?
see that one. I'm gonna have to
He's
go
got
back and look it up.
he's got this dog peanut butter with no toxins, and he gives it to dogs, and he came around with his dogs, and he was asking for 50,000. His offer was 50,000. He was asking 50,000. The offer was we get 10% of the business. Jay Cutler's worth like 50 mil because the guy is an extremely smart businessman. He doesn't need 50,000.
But it's
Just went on
exposure
there
to
for
be on the
exposure.
show.
That's
Yeah.
all it is. And one guy actually did offer him the money, but he said he doesn't want 10%. He wants $1 for every jar of peanut butter he sells. And he turned the guy down. And I've had him on. I've interviewed him. He's on my channel. It was a great interview. In the first half of the interview, I just was asking about business because I was so fascinated at how he made so much money. And he basically said, he started out with real estate, but then after that, he said that anything he touches in the fitness bodybuilding world makes money. But when he steps outside that, it's difficult because people don't know who he is and he can't use his brand. So he told me he started a bullet casing company, and after so much time, he had to sell everything because it wasn't making any money. Right? He said that any clothes, any supplements, any music that he listens to, they sell like this because he's Jay Cutler, right?
Yeah. That's the thing.
So
I mean, obviously I know who Jay Cutler is. I always known, but
mhm,
if you talk to people that aren't into working out, they think the Cutler, the football player,
that's right.
is a Jay
Yeah,
Cutler.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it happens all the time.
that's crazy. Yeah, I know that he's done well, and it's actually really inspiring that he's healthier. As far as like bodybuilders go, he's in really good shape. He's
Yeah,
kept his hair. You know what I'm saying? He looks
yeah.
good.
Well, if you ever see the guys, the guys that are really healthy, um, once they got to a point where they were big enough and they realized they didn't have to put any more size on, they calmed down with the crazy heavy lifting. And then like Lee Haney is one of those guys. Lee Haney was a former Mr. Olympia, and he's one of those guys. And he would have this expression: "Stimulate, don't annihilate." Right? There's no reason to push the envelope anymore. When now you have 300 pounds of muscle, there's no reason to do that. So guys like Dorian would hurt themselves. Guys like Ronnie Coleman would hurt themselves. I think Flex Wheeler, that might be a bad example, but I know he lost a leg. But guys like Jay Cutler, guys like Lee Haney, they realized, okay, this is as far as I'm going. I'm not pushing anymore. I'm the best. I'm the best role I will ever be. I'm Mr. Olympia. We're done, and there's no reason to kill myself anymore. And these guys have gone on to live very, very healthy lifestyles.
Oh yeah, that's something I wish. What's his name did? That guy, the 5%er, Rich Piano.
Oh, Rich Piano, Rich Piano.
I mean, he took it so far, and at that point, it's like, why? You already have your personal brand, you got your supplements, you got money. Why keep going like he was doing? I would have scaled it back,
Yeah,
but
Rich Piano burned both candles at this. What's the expression? He burnt the candle at
and they're
both
both
ends.
ends. Yeah.
Yeah, he was into partying and women, and it wasn't just steroids. He was a it was he had a very toxic relationship with this girl, and then he was into partying and cocaine and so on and so forth. when the cops went to his house when he died and the call was made, they said that they found white powder on his table, and his girlfriend said, "Oh no, that was pre-workout." I'm sure you just leave pre-workout on the table like that, and so it's very, if you ever really throw yourself into that bodybuilding world, you can easily get sucked in. There are a lot of girls that are you know toxic. There are a lot of guys that would do drugs other than anabolic steroids. There's a party scene, so on and so forth. So you really have to, you know, uh, you really have to keep it at an arm's distance. And
Oh
some
yeah.
people
Well,
do. Some people really do are able to keep it at an arm's distance and just
it's
able to
funny you
compete.
mention that because I noticed that bodybuilding seems like a refuge for a lot of people that want to get away from
Hmm.
other addictions, whether it's alcohol or
That's
other
right.
things. So they refocus on bodybuilding,
That's
and
right.
that kind of becomes the new mission.
I know plenty of guys and girls that were had drugs in their life and had problems in their life, dramatic issues, and bodybuilding becomes an escape that also gives them structure, and it becomes another addiction. Now, of course, that's a good thing, right? But then there are people that that do both,
Yeah.
and there's a very very dark side to bodybuilding that people don't like to talk about. I mean, there's plenty of girls that are on the dark web that are OnlyFans girls that are into muscle worship. There's plenty of guys that do gay for pay because they don't have enough money. I know Kai. There's
Whoa,
yeah,
really?
absolutely. There's this famous scene of Kai Green when he did gay for pay before he turned pro, and he cut a hole in an orange or a grapefruit, and you could look it up. And he was fucking a grapefruit or something like that, and he sold the pictures or sold the video for money. Nick Trigili's another guy who did gay for pay. He
Oh,
openly
that
admits
the
it.
fucking orange or whatever. Is that gay? If there's not another dude involved, or was
I
it
think
so?
it's gay when another guy is paying you for it.
That's true. Yeah.
Because
I mean,
girls aren't going to pay you for that shit.
I could see Kai. You know what I mean? Oh, so it was like through OnlyFans kind of thing. It
Yeah,
wasn't like
but
a
only this was
producer.
this was years ago. It was like on the dark web,
Gotcha.
you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, to be honest, I don't mean nothing by it, but Kai Green has always seemed like he had a little sugar in the tank, to be honest.
I think so too. And then all the outfits that he wears, and you never see him with a woman or anything like that. Which is funny because it's 2024. Nobody gives a shit if you're gay. Just fucking say it. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Which is strange. I guess he's just a private guy. But yeah, I always thought he was gay too. He never saw him with a woman. He never had kids. He always had these crazy outfits
Very
on.
flamboyant.
And he did dress in drag. There's that one video where he's in all
That's
women's
true.
outfits.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. So there's a lot of there really is this dark side to bodybuilding that nobody likes to talk about. It looks really pretty on the outside, but you open the doors, and I mean, I've interviewed girls that do muscle worship. Well, there was that famous Netflix documentary. Forgot the girl's name. Who and her boyfriend she used to do muscle worship, and her boyfriend was also a pro bodybuilder, and she wound up killing him. I don't know if you saw. I forgot the name of it.
You know
Killer,
what? I
Killer
saw the
Sally,
preview.
Killer. Is it Killer Sally or Killer Kelly? Something like that. I don't remember.
So
But
muscle worship is basically uh like the dudes are kissing on the chick's muscle or something.
yeah, so well, it goes into a whole different. There's a whole different, right? There are plenty of guys. Like, look, I think girls that work out are attractive, but there are a lot of guys that really like big, muscular women, and they pay a lot of money to be noticed by them to do things with them. So it could be arm wrestling, something simple as arm wrestling, but also it could be, uh, you know, uh, get me in a chokehold wrestling, uh,
Now we're
fireman's
talking.
carry where they carry them on their back. There's, obviously then it gets worse. Bull busting is a big one. I don't know if
Hey,
you ever heard of that. Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
that's a
yeah,
little too
yeah,
far for me.
yeah. And I've asked some of these girls. I've asked some of these girls. I asked a couple of girls. There was three of them that I had on that do it, and I asked them, "What's the line for you? What is when somebody says I want to do this? When do you say no? There's no way I'm doing that." And some of the answers I got were really. One girl said farting. She can't fart on anybody. One girl said defecating. Like there were guys that want me to shit on them. I can't do that. I won't do that. And then there were girls there's one girl told me off the record. She did not want to talk about it on the video, but she told me off the record that there was a guy that was willing to pay her, I think, $5,000 for her to be naked be in heels, and then step on a kitten till it's dead. And that's what he wanted her to do. Yeah, I swear to God. And she turned it down. She goes, no way, I'm not doing it. And then he offered her $8,000. She goes, you could offer me all the money in the world. I'm not doing it. So the
Oh
more
shit.
you, yeah, the more you get, the more you push it, the more that these guys are going to pay. Because because it's also global now. A lot of them are from the Middle East too. Because their only idea of American women is what they see on OnlyFans, what they see on Instagram, or so on and so forth. And um, so yeah, there's a dark side to bodybuilding that nobody wants. But at the same time, there are guys and girls that train, do bodybuilding, and go home to their families, and they know where to draw the line. My very good friend Phil Clayhart was like that. He's married. He's a family man. He's got children. He's got grandchildren. He's a tremendous champion bodybuilder, and he competes, and he only keeps friends that are like on the same page as him. And then he goes back home. He goes to Florida. Goes back home for his family, and then that's it.
That's
Um,
good.
yeah, there's plenty of guys like that, but then there's plenty of guys that you know they can't help it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like OnlyFans has really brought out a lot of freaks out of the shadows, because I think, people think of OnlyFans like, oh, well, you're just, showing something and some guy's paying you and that's it, like a subscription. But it's like, it goes a lot deeper. They're
It does.
talking to these people, they're
Hmm.
building on this sort of weird cyber
Relationship.
relationship to
Yeah.
extract money. And a lot of them are offering, like you mentioned, extra shit where, they do meetups for outrageous amounts of money or, whatever. And so
Yeah.
that's where it gets really weird.
Yeah,
Right.
you hit the nail on the head because what happens is most girls that do it. Look, 70% of content creators on OnlyFans are women. All right, and men are going to pay. Women generally don't pay men. So men, either gay men are going to pay straight men, or men are going to pay women. So 70% of content creators are women on OnlyFans, right? And then what happens is it's a slippery slope. You know, maybe 19 or 20, and maybe doesn't have any guidance. So, isn't in school and where's it? Plenty of girls like this. And they go, I'm just going to put bikini pics up. And they put bikini pics up and they charge, whatever, $10. And then they get offered. Oh, take your clothes off. I'll give you $200. Send me foot pics. I'll give you $300 to send me foot pics. And every time you break through that barrier, it's just justification for the next barrier. It's all it is. It's like when you smoke weed or you drink beer. It's just justification for doing cocaine or doing ecstasy. It's the same thing. So, but and then before you know it, um, you're doing dildo stuff and so on and so forth. And guys are playing, and guys are paying it. And also, where do you think I interviewed Miss Danny, who's a very famous porno star, and I don't know, she's the one that told me. Where do you think these porno production places get their new talent from? They're looking on OnlyFans, they're looking on Instagram, they're looking on TikTok. It's not like it used to be where you'd go to the strip club and maybe you found talent there. No, that's where they're going, and it's cheaper for them to do that because they call a young girl that's never done porn before. They offer them half of what they would offer a girl who's already established in porn, and the girls think that they struck it rich, and then they go. I mean, this is how it's working now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's yeah, because I think I made a video about it, how the majority of girls on OnlyFans, they're barely making ends meet. I mean, you're
Yeah,
making
the average is $500 a month.
so if somebody comes and says, "Hey, listen, we'll give you $5,000 to do the porno," this will help your brand, because then
Right.
people will see in the porno, you can get more people on OnlyFans. So she'll be like, "Ah, it's a win-win." So she does that, but then in
Hmm.
reality, she's just right back where she started, except she did porn.
Yeah, and another thing that they don't talk about is the destructive lifestyle that leads. I mean, I think that porno star Jesse James just died last week of an over. Her and her boyfriend overdosed together in their welfare. When they were both on welfare, and that's how they found them, because there was a guy from welfare that was checking on them or something like that. And this is the destructive lifestyle that these girls will lead to, where this promiscuous lifestyle will lead to, and nobody's telling these young girls this. What's odd to me is I've interviewed mafia guys, I've interviewed biker guys, I've interviewed Larry Maz, I've interviewed John A. Light. Well, actually, I didn't interview him. I was on his podcast, but I've interviewed plenty of. And a lot of times, what they used to do is they go to high schools or they go to youth centers or they go to jail, and they tell the guys, look, if this is the life you're going to lead, this is the end point. You're either going to be in prison or you're going to be dead. And they try to distract them. I have never seen a woman in her 40s or 50s go to a girl and say, if you continue to do this promiscuous lifestyle, you were going to end up in a bad place. And it's just never. So I don't know why, you know, girls tend to give them each other the worst. They go, yeah, girl, you know, more power to you. You do if that makes you feel good. And it's just like, what are you telling these girls? You know, tell them the truth. It's a terrible way of life. It's terrible.
Oh yeah, there's this one chick that I recently found out passed away, and you know, I could say now and then I've come across a video too of her, you know, and so I
Hmm.
recognize her. She has some particular talents that I've been, you know, privy to, but
Yeah,
you know, she's blonde, short blonde. I think it's Sky something,
I'm not sure.
but she, I think it was related to drugs, and she's very thin, and I saw her all the time, like on the hub. And then I found out that she had died just a couple of years ago. And that's just another one on the list.
Yeah, yeah, this is what happens. Because, because, you know, when you do, you know, when you throw yourself into that world, there's men that aren't good guys. There's drugs that come with it. There's alcoholism that come with it. And then, you know, generally speaking, once, you know, really, women really don't want to do that. It's not in their DNA, right? So they have to cope with it somehow. So they use drugs and use alcohol. Then they're with toxic men that will take advantage of them and so on and so forth. And it just ends up in a terrible, terrible place. Now, don't get me wrong. I've heard stories of women that have like were born again and they go to church and they change their life around. But the problem still is that you're never going to get rid of that stuff on the internet. It's impossible. It's always there. It's always, always, always there.
Oh my God, I got a story, bro.
All right.
Speaking of that, when I was in Phoenix, I went on this date with this girl I met online. It was like, I guess, Tinder or whatever.
Yeah.
She's an Asian girl. So we go to this restaurant. I'm sitting there, and she came dressed up, heels, everything, almost a little too dressed up, but you know, whatever. She had the fake boobs going on, which
Hmm.
is not really my thing, but definitely caught my eye. You know what I mean?
Of course. Yeah.
And I was like, man, she's really cute. I'm excited. You know, we're talking, and she said something. I made a joke, and I'm like, well, you know, as long as you didn't do porn or something. And she just looked like really like serious all of a sudden. So I'm like, what, you
Hmm.
did? And she's like, yeah, you know, and she had gone actually to LA and did like with the big boys. And so I asked a question. She was getting like 15, 20 grand per film or whatever. But
Hmm.
anyway, I was like, ah, don't worry about it. You know, it's not a big deal. And I kept seeing her. But you know, as soon as I got home, I
You look her
started
up.
Googling and
Yeah, of course.
I couldn't find it because she didn't tell me like her porn name.
Right.
So,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
there's
yeah,
this subreddit, right? It's called Porn Star ID. And I guess it's
yeah.
all these dudes
Yeah,
that are
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
obsessed with porn. You post a picture, they'll tell you the name.
Yeah.
And so I took the picture she had on her profile, put it there. They ID'd her. So I pull up the videos. Oh my God. Like she did maybe 3 films, but they break that into scenes. They
Yeah.
get reposted constantly. So there's hundreds and hundreds of movies of her. And we're
Yeah.
talking like 3, 4 dudes,
Yeah.
every which way.
Any
The
any any man worth his salt is going to put her in the sex category after that. That's
oh my
it.
God.
That's it. You might tell her that, oh, I don't care, but you're just gonna. There's no way that woman's raising my children. It's impossible. It's,
I
I'm
thought
not
I
doing it.
wouldn't care. I thought I wouldn't
No,
care. But I mean, we're
absolutely.
talking about like Mandingo, you know, with the,
Yeah,
you
it
know, on the
doesn't.
face, the,
Look, man. The reason why men are so afraid this is my opinion. I don't know. I might be wrong. The reason why men are so afraid of getting in serious relationships with women that are promiscuous because is the man's biggest fear is finding out his kids aren't his. And the only way to prove paternity in the last, 10,000 years was to make sure the girl was a virgin. You know, today obviously there's DNA tests, but I truly think instinctively that, men, when they want to sell down and have children, they want the purest form of woman they could possibly find, right? Um, but when you just want to have sex, it's a completely different story. It's whoever I'm, attracted to, or whoever, blah, blah, blah. It's just my opinion. But because that's how I look. I didn't want when I got married, I didn't want a woman that slept around with all different dudes and whatnot. You
yeah.
know,
And I mean, this girl was a decent chick. She hadn't done that in a long time because she did like when she was 22 and she was like 27. She was an accountant at a company. Um, But you know, like there was things about her, like how she dressed, that kind of like I don't know. She says she's not about that life, but the way she dressed kind of was porn star ish. If you know what.
It- maybe she wasn't, but it doesn't matter because it's still there.
Oh yeah, I couldn't
You
forget
know,
the image. You know what I mean?
right?
So
Yeah, it's still there. Don't get me wrong. Like, when that's why men go to strip clubs because there is a part of them that want that and desire that. Right? But when any man with, like I said, that's worth anything, has any kind of self-respect, is never going to take a girl like that seriously. It's just, and the guys that do, they're either, the guys that do, they have to be a shell of them. And money has nothing to do with it. I see plenty of girls that marry guys that are either porno stars or IG girls, and they marry guys that have plenty of money, but that guy is still not, a man is most in his most masculine frame, right? You might be able to make a lot of money, but it doesn't mean that you have this masculine ideology that you follow,
oh
you
yeah,
know. And we see it, all the time, and it's just like, all right, because you got saved by this simp, you know.
dude. If the worst would be if you settle down with a porn star, and then she shuts down and only wants to have sex like once a week, and you're
No,
like, bro, what's going
yeah,
on? She's like, I'm not
yeah,
like that anymore.
tough shit. And there's actually evidence. There's actually um, studies done that the more partners a woman has, the more likely she is to get divorced. The more partners a woman has, the more likely she is to cheat on you. The more partners a woman has, the more difficult it is to bond with her husband or the person that she wants to mate. And the more partners a woman has, I think it was uh, the least happy she's going to be in a long term marriage. So it's not like I'm just talking out of my ass. There's plenty of studies that show it and so on and so forth. Most women don't like to sleep around. The majority of women want a relationship because if you just think about it, when you go on a date, I mean, we're both married now, but when you go on a date, the most attractive a man is to a woman is the first time she sees her, because he sees her, right?
Mhm.
A woman, you have to she might find you physically attractive, but there's always more to it. She wants to get to know you. She wants to know what you're about. They always ask you, what are your goals in life? They ask you about, what are you here for? And you have to be charming, you have to be charismatic. And then they decide, okay, this guy would be a good guy to sleep with. This is a safe bet. And that's in their DNA, you know? So biology shows that women don't want to be promiscuous. So, and then women that do become promiscuous, they tend to like have they tend to be born again, if you will, when they hit close to 30. Like, oh shit, I better find somebody because my clock is ticking.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then they switch it up on you.
Yeah, yeah,
That's tough. That's tough. Like it's tough to settle down with somebody and know like that person's going to change. And certain things about it's going to change over time, and you just have to kind of compromise. A lot of
yeah.
people aren't really willing to compromise. You know what I mean? And that's why you saw that video I was talking about where the dude was getting pissed that his wife wasn't sleeping with him,
Oh yeah.
and I was like, I've been there, and I think in those
Oh yeah.
moments you just have to focus on yourself, do the best you can, and if you bring your best game and it's still not working, then it's not working. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right. Right. No, it's true, and I tell this to friends all the worst thing a woman can be is bored. And if you are the type of guy, and, this goes against everything every woman will ever tell anybody. But if you're the type of guy that is home after work every day and she knows exactly where you are all the time, and you ditch your friends because you have to do food shopping with your wife or whatever the case may be, then what is going to happen is that she is going to lose respect for you because no matter what, she's kind of been able to walk all over you. It's the guys that get married and still have that backbone. They still have the machismo. Work comes first. My father used to play cards 3 times a week with his friends, and he come hella high water, right? I go to the gym no matter what, no matter what my wife says, and because most of the time guys think that this is what they're supposed to do, especially the new generation. But the truth of the matter is, those are the guys that get the worst deal. Those are the guys that get divorced. Those are the guys that get to lose their house, lose their kids. It's the guys that it's just like, oh well, this is what you said you wanted, and then it turns out that's really not what they want. And
That's very
there
true.
was, yeah, and there was, I forgot the guy's name, but I was listening to a podcast, and he goes, "You want to figure out women?" He goes, "Don't listen to what they say. Look at who they fuck." And every time you ask a girl what they want in a man, they'll give you this breakdown, and then you find out that, like, her boyfriend just went back to jail. you know, and it's like, well, so once you realize that, and I think most guys don't. I think most guys don't realize that. I don't think most guys understand women's human nature, because they will tell you. They will tell you, "I want a guy like this. I want a guy like, I want a good man who makes money and makes me feel special, puts me on a pedestal." And if you look at that, if you do that, and you see the guys that actually do all that, they get destroyed. They get ripped apart. They get disrespected. Not only do the women disrespect their wives, disrespect their wives' families disrespect. I mean that stupid movie. Every woman loves this movie. That what is it? My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Oh my God, yeah.
Every woman loves that movie. I'm watching it going, the guy's a bitch. Even her cousins are making fun of him. Jesus Christ, you know. And then it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, you have a really good point. What women tell you they want isn't what they really want.
Never.
And you don't want to take that advice. The
No, you
guys that are
definitely
getting the
don't.
chicks, like you said, are usually people that are, very opinionated. They got their own goals. They do their own thing. They're kind of rebels. They're just
That's
going
right.
with the flow.
They're bad boys. I mean, look, if people out there don't think I'm right, then ask yourself this. I forgot the actual term. We can Google it if you'd like. There are women that are completely and fully and totally in love with guys that are in prison that they never met. I mean, and I'm talking pieces of shit, like mass murderers, serial killers, mass shooters, and there are women that are completely and totally infatuated, writing letters, so on and so forth. That doesn't happen the other way around. There is no man that is completely in love with a woman because she's a fucking serial killer, um,
That's true.
just because she's
Yeah.
a serial killer. So that tells you right there, the instinct of a woman. She likes those dark triad traits. She likes the bad boy. And that's why for so many years there were arranged marriages, because people knew that women would be terrible picks. And the father would be like, "No, you're going to marry this guy because he's a good guy, comes from a good family, he's going to work hard and take care of you," and so on and so forth. You
Yep.
know?
Oh yeah, I used to tell my wife all the time. Well, I still do that. She has like terrible taste in men, and she really lucked out because she picked me, and I was a wreck. I was a mess, you know. But it just so happened that I was transitioning. But in a normal case, if you pick some dude like me, like I was kind of like involved with somebody else, and like it was a whole shit show. So that's not the kind of person you would wanna, go with and take a
Yeah.
chance on. But you know. That's
And,
what
and
that's what girls like. They want somebody that somebody else wants too. They don't want somebody that nobody wants.
right. Yeah, it's the truth. They'll tell you that, and they'll settle with that. They'll get to, like I said, 30. They call it, alpha fucks and beta bucks. That's what they refer to it as, or they'll get pregnant from the guy they want to get pregnant with, and then they marry a guy who's going to raise the kid, that, even though it's not his, and put everything into it, right? And it takes, if you don't have a dad, if you don't have a father that really is a strong leader in your life, men fall prey to this all the time, constantly, and nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. But
Yeah.
I hear guys all the time, that they lose their house, they lose their kids, they'll live in somebody's basement, or moving back in with their parents, or the guys, plenty, plenty of guys are going through this because all they want to do is go to work, make money, and support their family. That's what's in our DNA. That's what we want to do. Then we want to be respected for it. But if you don't pick the right woman,
Oh yeah. Back in the day
man,
when I was young, like 22, 22, 23, I was dating this chick and I moved in with her. She had two daughters, and her ex-husband, like each daughter was from a different dude, but the most recent ex-husband had adopted the other one. And so he was
hmm
paying child support. She was living in the house. He had to leave. So he was living in like a studio apartment. My
hmm
ass moves in, right? And I'm just laying on the couch eating chips and shit. And this poor dude comes to pick up his daughters, and she's giving him shit. And I just felt so bad because I was like, damn, man, this guy tried to do everything right. And my young ass is up in here, up in the house, eating his food, and he's in a studio apartment. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And it's
Yeah,
like,
dude, if it happens all the fucking time, man. It happens all the time. I mean, there was a guy I was working with this week. One a friend of mine who's on my podcast, and he's a bodybuilder. Don't. It's way too much. But nobody gives a shit, because men are basically disposable. Nobody cares, right? It's unfortunate, but what you are seeing, if you look at like stats, you are seeing the younger generation, Gen Z and millennials, that aren't even looking to get married because they're saying to themselves, if you don't want me, if you don't want to grow with me, if you don't, I see my father that got destroyed. I see how women are acting and how they act entitled. They're just not getting married. A lot of them aren't even dating or pursuing dating.
yeah, I
You
mean,
know?
I think that's not a bad idea. There's that group called like men going their own way.
Yeah, MGTOW, MGTOW.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people give them shit, but it's like if you look at it from a financial and like a life philosophy, it's not a
Hmm.
bad thing to not prioritize relationships. It seems like,
Yeah,
especially when you're young, you're obsessed. All you want to do is find love, find chicks,
right,
settle down. It's like if I spent my teens actually working, I think where would I be now?
right. Yeah, it's supposed to be, if you look at, and again, if you think I'm wrong about this, just look at the cultures in our country that have a traditional background. Their communities are flourishing. If you look at Indian, Asian, Middle Eastern, Hasidic, Jewish, their communities are flourishing. They invest in each other. They get married. They have children. They have family around them. They own entire buildings and blocks and communities. It's unbelievable. And then if you look at people, communities that don't have that, they're falling apart. They're just absolutely falling apart, right? And it's just unfortunate. It used to be that you met in your 20s, you got married, and you grew together. Yeah, you were both broke, but you worked together. And you worked, and the father would work, and the mother might work part time, and she would the majority would take care of the kids, and the father's career would grow, and then you would have children, and you grew with each other, and then you had this beautiful family. After 20 years or so, you had grandkids, you had kids, and so on and so forth. Now what's happened is the majority of the young girls, not all of them, the ones that are raised right, and I know plenty of them, my family members, my niece is one of those girls who married a great guy. She's not even 30 yet. They're married, they have a house, they have a beautiful son. But there's plenty of girls out there that don't want to wait. They don't want to grow. I'm 25 years old, and, I deserve, a man that's already established. So, of course, what's happening is they're all trying to go after the same guy. So you see a lot of guys that are 35, 40, and they're with girls that are, in their, 20s or early 30s. And you see this all the time. You go to Miami, Las Vegas, it's everywhere, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's also a lot of just like anti-men sentiment, I feel,
Oh, big
online and
time.
around that I didn't see 15 years ago,
No.
and it's just harping hard. And you're allowed to say it. There's a lot of
Oh,
things
yeah.
you're allowed to say against dudes that if you turned it around and said it about a woman, you'd get it banned immediately. And I just wonder, why? And it's not making relationships easier, to have
No, it's
this
not.
negative thing, and it's like putting what does it say? Anything that happens is like not all men, but always a man. And
Hmm.
when something bad happens and shit like that, it just drives me crazy. Because
Yeah.
it's like I'm here, married, trying to raise a family, doing my own thing. I don't rarely leave that damn house.
Yeah,
And yet
yeah, yeah,
go
right.
online and everybody's talking shit about, oh, men do this, men do that, men do the other.
Yeah. Yeah, and what happened, what's funny is that a lot of times it's the women that make the decision not to be with a good man. And either they're with the good man and they leave him, or they ignore the good man and they're with some asshole, and then they get fucked over, and then all men are shit. Or the girl that's the girl that gets divorced from a good man, and then you know she takes the house, she takes the kids, and has alimony and child support, and she's out in the dating world again, and nobody or anybody else just wants her for sex because nobody wants to take her serious anymore because now she's like 40 with two kids, and doesn't look as good as she used to. Oh, all men want is sex. They're all pieces of shit. And it's like, you got to kind of take some accountability here, right? It's like there are plenty of good guys out there, but you won't give them the time of day. And then when you finally marry one that does do the right thing, you decide, I don't want to be married to him this year. Because getting divorced for a woman is extremely easy. It's incentivized. They get the house, they get the car, they get the kids. I think the stat is 70 to 80% of women that, I'm sorry, 50% divorce rate across the country, but 70 to 80% of the women are the ones that are filing for divorce. And it goes up to 90% when they're college educated because they're like, well, I don't need him. I can make that much money. And that's the difference between men and women. Men go, I'm making good money now. Now I can get married and have kids and support a family. Women go, I'm making money now. I don't need no man.
Yeah. Guys will
You know?
usually stick it out a lot longer in a bad
Yeah.
relationship than a chick, I've noticed.
Yeah. Well, women, if you agree that women are more emotional than men, then you understand that women hurt more than men. And women feel when they're unhappy, they're more unhappy than a man is. A man can cope with it because he's not as emotionally aware as a woman is. That is completely their biology. So when you give a woman this loophole and they just go, I'm not happy, they're going to take the loophole. They're going to take divorce. And that coupled with the idea that nobody tells them, this is your family, this is the husband of your kids, work it out. You don't want to take your kids away from your husband because you're not happy right now. But next week you'll be happy. Next month you'll be happy.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
another symptom of that is fatherhood isn't really respected. It's not seen as valuable. So that's another thing when they're getting divorced. They're like, you're going to take away the kids, but they don't see it as a valuable thing either of
that's right.
having a father in their lives.
And all you have to do is look at statistics. I think it's 70 or 75% of men that are in jail come from single mother homes. The
Yeah.
majority of runaways come from single mother homes. The majority of mass shooters come from single mother homes. The majority of girls that are lead lives that are promiscuous, like OnlyFans or strippers or prostitutes, come from single mother homes. I mean, the stats are not backing up that fathers aren't important. The stats are backing up the fact that father is important.
Oh yeah.
You
They
know,
should show statistics on how many women regret getting divorced after they get divorced. Because I bet you if you look a couple of years down the line, a lot of women are looking back like, okay, maybe it wasn't such a bad deal.
the problem is by nature women aren't accountable. So how good is that going to be? I've never heard a woman say, "Hey, I really messed up."
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Think about when you have an argument with your wife. So you want to put your head through the wall. It's like, Jesus Christ, you were completely wrong here.
Well, too,
you
also
know?
like if like women are always telling each other they're tens. So even when a woman gets divorced, there's a support group around them that
hmm
is constantly patting them on the back. Hell, a lot of times you worry, you look at your wife's friends or your girlfriend's friends, and you got to worry because those girls can influence your relationship a lot more than you probably can imagine,
Yeah.
you know?
I refer to if your wife has if a wife or your girlfriend has single friends, I refer to them as strays. And the strays are going to put the worst ideas in their head. If you're a married woman, your friends should be other married women. If you're a married woman with kids, your friends should be other married women with kids. It's because I mean, my wife owns a hair salon, and I hear it when I go in there. I hear it. You know, one girl will have an argument with her husband, and fuck damn, you don't need it. Oh, it's like, dude, it's like, give me back. It's a fucking argument. And then a girl will be getting fat. She'll say, "Oh no, rock your girls, oh your curves, girl." Well, my friend gets fat. I like, go look at you, you fat bastard. Stop eating.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Men give
Yeah,
each other real self-help advice,
yeah,
generally on self-improvement, like, take care of your shit.
yeah.
Women will deflect and blame everyone but themselves, I feel.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and maybe it's not all women, but it's enough that, that's what I see.
There are exceptions to every rule, and there are women out there that are really, really successful, but they have more of the masculine traits where they are accountable and they do think back and they do correct themselves and so on and so forth. And those women are very, very successful in finance and so on and so forth, or whatever career they endorse or they go into. But the vast majority of women, you know, very difficult for them to self-reflect and understand that they did something wrong and they have to correct it. Very, very, very difficult.
This is why marriage it's a tough one. How
Yeah,
long you been
and
married?
uh, February will be 9 years. I'll be
Oh
married 9 years.
wow.
Been my wife for 12 years. Been married nine years. You know, and but I married a girl that was relatively traditional. I'm Italian, but she's Greek. Her father was from Greece, so they have those traditional values. Same kind of thing, and it's very difficult. It took me a while, before because I was with somebody when I was in my 20s, and who was a great girl, and I fucked that up completely. We were engaged, and I was just a piece of shit. I took full responsibility, and then it took me, uh, you know, another 8 to 10 years to find whatever it was, 8 years to find somebody relatively similar that I'd be like, okay, this is the kind of guy. I mean, I can't tell you how many shit shows I went through.
I can imagine.
you know, it's just unbelievable. But but like anything else, it's you just kind of have to. If your wife is a good woman and she does right by you and she's a ride or die kind of girl, then you deal with the little bullshit. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal.
Well, if you had
You
to give
know
advice to somebody and tell them what traits you look for in someone to marry for like a long term relationship, what would be the things you prioritize?
what their family life is like. Are their parents divorced? Do they have? Is her father very masculine and her mother very feminine? Or is her family like that? Because if her family's like that and she's raised like that, that's the ideology she's gonna expect. If she is not, you're taking a gamble. If she's raised by a single mother, she has no father figure. If she has a weak father in her life, you're really rolling the dice. That's the
Yeah. She
that's
got two
the
moms.
yeah, no good. Yeah, because there's got to be a balance. Because if you have a strong father with a backbone that actually goes out of his way to support his family and so on and so forth, then this is the kind of guy that she's going to respect, and odds are this is the kind of guy that she's going to want to marry. And then when her mother is very feminine and compassionate and is on her father's side, and doing the household chores and work and so on and so forth, then that's probably the type of wife she's going to be, because this is how she was from a child, from growing up. If a girl doesn't come from that kind of home, it is going to be very, very difficult to make her. There's that phrase: "You can't make a hoe into a housewife." That
Yeah.
would be that would be the first thing. Why? That's why a lot of these guys. I have friends, and they call them the passport pros. But I have friends that went to the Philippines. I have 3 friends from work that went to the Philippines and married girls from the Philippines. And what was funny was all 3 of them, it was after they got divorced from their American wives, and
Yeah.
they didn't want to be alone, but they didn't want to take another gamble on an American girl, and they went to the Philippines, and they were a lot more traditional, met the families and whatnot, and then brought them here, and they're very happy because they
Oh, yeah.
have more of the
American
traditional
women
value.
absolutely hate that.
Yo,
They
they
hate it.
despise it. They absolutely despise it. It's like, well, if you don't like it, then change. You
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah. Well, they try
yeah,
the shaming, that they'll call you every name in the book if you're
yeah,
one of those guys to go. Basically they accuse you of being like basically a trafficker. I mean, I've heard it all.
yeah,
Oh, you're
yeah.
going over there where you're taking, disenfranchised women that are poor or you're taking advantage of 'em. And it's like, listen, if anything is given an opportunity, and if they're happy, then what does it matter? You know what
How
I mean?
about this? Mind your business. How about that? Worry about yourself.
Yeah.
It's just worry about the problems you have. Don't worry about what the guy who has a happy marriage with his wife from the Philippines is doing. You know, because what are you just upset that you can't keep a man?
Oh yeah.
That's probably what it is. Like, you're just upset that you can't keep a man, or you can't have a good man. The biggest problem women have, American women, this is just my opinion, is they look to see what can the guy offer me, as opposed to what can I offer him. And they never reflect on that. And they never say, what does a man with a high value want a woman? Let me see. Let me figure it out. Now, it used to be that it just came with the territory. Most people came from a traditional background, and women were taught to be compassionate, to be loving, to be respectful to men, to be able to cook, and to be able to be very maternal with children, and so on and so forth. So you grew up that way. But and when you see, high value men that are marrying girls like that, you should be like, oh, okay, that's what they want. But no, they're really too concerned with what can you give me to make my life easier. And that's the wrong way to go into any relationship. To any, even a big, think about going into business with somebody with that attitude. You
Oh yeah.
know, how much money are you going to invest? What are you going to do? Well, I'm here, ain't I? Well, that's not fucking good enough.
Oh yeah, I really lucked out with my wife because, as you mentioned, I never really thought of the family situation, but she
Mhm.
comes from, traditional family in Poland.
Yeah.
She's from Poland. She grew up in Poland. She just happened to be
Hmm.
here. And, when we first met, she took a big chance on me. I came and I stayed with her,
Hmm.
and I didn't have much. I had my YouTube, I had a couple of like sponsorships, but I wasn't balling. And
Right.
so, we grew together. And
Yeah.
my wife, she tells me all the time how happy and how grateful she is of how our life turned out. And it's funny because just saying that makes such a huge difference. Just
It's
somebody saying,
so,
hey, by the way, I really appreciate everything you do. And it's like, dude, you know how women never say that? So many women would never say that.
they would never admit it. And what's funny is, women don't understand because women think like women and they think that our values are the same and how we treat them is the way they blah, blah, blah. But my wife doesn't say it, but my wife shows it. And the biggest compliment I ever get from my wife is how she shows it. So, like, for example, we usually have her family over on Thanksgiving, and sometimes I have to work a holiday. And this particular year, I had to work a holiday, and I never turn it down because I make good money on a holiday. So I had to work Thanksgiving 7 to 3, and we had her family over. They were there already. They were at my house already before I got there. And this is what I mean by my wife showed it. Nobody was able to eat till I got home. Nobody sat in my chair at the dining room table until I got home, and nobody parked in my parking spot when I got home. Right? And that tells you that my wife truly respects me and loves me.
Oh, yeah.
If you walk into your house and you don't have a seat at the table and everybody's picking out on the food that you bought, I'm sorry, man, but you don't have anything
Yeah.
at all.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
know?
My wife is great. When I come home, sometimes, ESPN is already on the TV, toilet seat is already up, and there's a dude in the closet so I can make a new friend. You know what I mean? It's perfect. I'm like, you're
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
thoughtful.
Yeah, you know what's funny, man? The stuff that you do on Instagram has me rolling. So for people we don't know, that people that don't know, me and Vincent are both Italian, and you did this one video where you talked about like the woman that doesn't want to have sex with her,
Yeah.
and then at the end you said come in like a kamikaze, but you said it in Italian, and I was fucking rolling, dude. I was like, I wasn't expecting that. That was hysterical. But there was a lot of them that you did that were really funny,
I appreciate it.
they're really entertaining stuff. Well, your YouTube channel is really good too. It really is.
I'm kind of directionless right now, I feel like. I just do kind of random stuff and seeing kind of what sticks. I used to get so many more views when I was doing crypto, and I switched over, and now and then, like, I'll have a video do great, but like on average, I guess I'm just not seeing, you know.
Mhm.
I don't
You
know if
know,
it's not. Go ahead.
yeah. You know what it is with you though. I think, in my opinion, is you don't need to really you're a very successful guy. We've talked about this off record, off air. You're a very very successful guy, and you've made a lot of money, and you're very successful in your business ventures. So it seems to me your YouTube channel is just fun. I mean, it would be great to make more money doing it, but it seems to me that your YouTube channel is just fun because you do a lot of funny shit.
I
You
appreciate
know,
it.
no problem, man. And that's probably the best way to do social media is if you don't have to count on it, for income. You don't have to really, worry or think too much,
Oh yeah, and but the problem also, like, I have my other work that I got to do, so it pulls me away a lot of
Of
times.
course.
And if I put too much in YouTube, I'm like, hey, shouldn't I be worried about this? You know,
Hmm.
so it's tough. But I go through phases where I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do this, and we're gonna do more videos, and so I get my wife involved and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that. There was a
Convince
couple
her.
of them where you did that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's a good
Well,
sport.
yeah, my wife absolutely refuses to be on camera. There's no way, shape, in hell she wants to. She goes, no way. She'll make like these shirts. She'll make them for me, but she will not. She does not want to be on camera. There's no way. There's no. She is just not that kind of person. I don't want to be seen. Forget it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, whatever. It's up to you. Because I asked her a couple of times. It's really funny when I first started my channel. I didn't know what direction I was going to go in, but I knew I wanted to do it. And there was this, there was this channel. I don't even know if it's still there. It was a husband and wife, and they used to do just stupid reaction videos. They would watch South Park or a comedian, and the girl had these huge boobs, right? And my wife has big boobs, so this girl had huge boobs. She always would wear cleavage and whatnot. So of course they had like 50,000 subscribers, you know. So I showed my wife one of the videos, and I looked at her, and I was like, "Well," she goes, don't even think about it. Don't, no, no way, shut it off." I was like, "All right, got it. I tried."
Yeah.
But that's the reason why I married her, is that she isn't like that. Right?
Oh yeah.
There's plenty of girls that are on, like we said, Instagram, that are showing everything, just they're naked and so on, or almost all naked. They like the attention, and my wife is the complete opposite. Does not like the attention at all.
Yeah. I mean, people don't get it, but being, somewhat successful as a male creator is a whole different ballgame.
It really is.
It's
Yeah,
so much harder. People don't get it because
it really is. Like there's a porno girl. Forgot her name, Ava something. She was doing porn for a long time, and now she's doing YouTube. And all she does is like change into different outfits, and she's got like 300,000 subscribers. And it's like, and she gets thousands of views on her video because men usually watch YouTube for some reason. I think that's why so many male channels do so well, is because men are watching YouTube. Women don't really watch YouTube like as a as a form of entertainment, really, right? For some reason. But this girl, she would just, she would like, be sponsored by some clothing line, and she would just change into them. I can't do that. Can't just change to an outfit and have a million subscribers. It's impossible, you know.
oh yeah.
It's,
And yeah, it's crazy. And also it's also frustrating, I think, because everything like has a time, and I feel like, you can find someone who's successful and be like, man, if I'd have thought of that, like if you do the same thing, you're not going to make it. There's a
right.
time that passes, and a lot of people now, they can ride on the success they had, the subscribers they got, and maybe the shit they're doing now is not good, but they started
Hmm.
maybe during COVID or something when there was a
That's
trend.
right.
That guy is an Italian guy actually, but from Africa, then got adopted or something like that. And he does the
Uh,
stuff where he goes like that. Like somebody does something silly and he'll redo it simply and then go, it's a black guy.
I
And
don't
he
know. I
has
didn't
like
see it.
Habib is his name. Anyway, he has like
Okay.
50 million subscribers on all the
Yeah.
channels and stuff. He's getting deals with like Hugo Boss. It just blew up. And it was
Okay.
like during COVID. And it's like, well, he got lucky because like
He
in
just
that
found a
time,
niche. Yeah. Right. Right.
you
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Now
Exactly. Exactly.
everybody's trying to do more crazy shit. I also
Yeah.
tried to kind of be a little bit more uh, crazy, like with the opinions I share, try to get people talking, create more of a
Yeah.
shock factor. And
And you're 100% right with the timing, I and I, because now I have my finger on the pulse now because of the social media and the YouTube. I just jumped on Rumble, and the reason why I just jumped on Rumble, you probably heard this, is Dave Portnoy went partners with Rumble, the guy from Barstool
mhm,
Sports.
yeah, of course, one
So I
bite,
have to,
everybody knows the rules.
yeah, right. So I have to believe that he is doing that for a reason. I have to believe that he's going to make Rumble go for a push competing with YouTube. Otherwise, why would you want to go partners with a failing platform? The guy is very successful. He's a very smart guy. I would have to believe that Rumble, is going to make a huge push uh, because they're the only ones that really compete with YouTube, but they can't even. YouTube is like the only guy on the block. But as we've seen through history, that is not going to last forever.
Yeah, I mean, even Dana White is involved with Rumble, right? He put like the
Right.
slap stuff on there.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
You watch the slap?
Sometimes I do. It's fun. It's hilarious. Um, do you ever see the pictures of them the next day?
No, I
And
haven't.
their faces are out to here because they're so swollen and fucked up and black and blue. Yo, this, you got to be a little fucked up in the head to want to do that. You can't be. And you ever see the girls do it? It's like, oh my god, you really got to be twisted to do this shit.
Oh, I know, man. I'm telling you.
It's fun. Oh, what's funny is I was interviewing a woman bodybuilder who I became really good friends with. Her name is Rita West, right? And Arnold Schwarzenegger took women's bodybuilding out of the Arnold Classic, and she was really pissed off. And she came on my channel. She was complaining about it because they included slapping contests at the Arnold Classic. And she's like, so you mean to tell me at a bodybuilding show, women can't compete in bodybuilding, but you can have a slapping contest? And she just bugged. I'm like, hey, you got a point. She's got a point.
That's crazy.
But the truth is, people watch that stupid shit, man.
Yeah,
The
I know. I
people,
was like really taken aback when when I thought he lost, and I'm like, come on, you're with something as good as UFC, and you're bringing the slap, because it seems weird. But like you said, I mean, people are watching that, especially if it didn't
people,
come like from Russia or something like that.
dude, not for nothing, but like, if you, like, those Russian guys, Chechnyan, Ukrainian, you do not want to mess with those guys. They're a different breed, man. Like I don't know how they're just a different fucking breed. It's like if you got into a fight with one of those guys, you have to kill them. There's no way they're animals. They're just fucking huge, massive human beings made of fucking steel. Like Rocky Floor really wasn't too far from the truth.
Yeah, yeah. And they don't put up any of that woke bullshit out
No,
there.
not even close. No, they hate that shit. If you ask any one of them from one of those communities, like I used to work with a couple of Russians, they hate that shit. Just straight gay, they hate it. They're like, nah, I can't deal with that crap. And that's their upbringing. That's where that they have those traditional values, and that's it. It just can't deal with it. And I think you're not allowed gender reassignment surgery, which I agree with. I think it's ridiculous, to be honest with you. But it's a whole other topic. In Russia, you can't have gender reassignment surgery. But you know, uh, but yeah, man, those guys are just they come, and in every power sport, whether it's slapping and you watch powerlifting, if you watch strongman, they come out of the woodwork from that part of the world, man. It's unbelievable. Even bodybuilding. There's a guy named Good Vito. He lives in. They call him Good Vito because you can't pronounce his name. It's a Russian name. You got to look him up. He lives in Brazil now, but he's Russian. Dude, this kid, and he's like 20 something years old. He is a massive, massive human being. I'm like, what the fuck do they feed them over there? Jesus Christ! And he's not the only one. There's a ton of them, but it's like, gee, unfucking real.
Yeah, yeah. There's also like what is it? The Khabib is from like
Yeah,
Dagestan, out
yeah,
there in
yeah.
the
He's another
mountains,
guy. Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're
He's
all
another guy.
wrestling up there. They're all crazy.
Yeah, and shit talking is very common in America. We don't take it serious, but shit talking in other cultures is really disrespectful.
Oh yeah,
And one of those places is like those places where, like in Kazakhstan and Chechnya and Russia, and that's why when he fought, McGregor, he was really offended with all that shit talking, and that's why he jumped into the audience and beat up the rest of his corner. Do
oh yeah.
you remember that? It's like,
That was a classic moment.
yeah, and it's like, listen, man, some cultures are just different, and they're not going to take that. They don't like it. They don't like having. They don't understand, or they don't like shit talking. They take it as very, very, very disrespectful,
Oh yeah,
and you're going to pay the price. And as McGregor did, and the rest of his corner did.
oh yeah. Didn't McGregor like throw alcohol at him at one of the conferences?
Yeah,
Knowing
it
that
was
it
really
was just crazy
great.
stuff. Insulting
Yeah,
his father, insulting his religion.
yeah,
It was bad. And I mean,
yeah,
I understand the tactic. He was trying to get him so upset that he would make a mistake, kind of like Jose Aldo, I guess.
right.
But it didn't work.
Yeah, and he's trying to promote the fight, which hey, great, but there's just certain people you don't want to. There's certain cultures you don't want to do that to, you
Yeah.
know, and they're one of them. That whole former Soviet Union group of countries now, those are people you do not want to get on their bad side, you know. And like I said, I live in New York, and you go to Brooklyn, certain parts of Brooklyn, Brighton Beach, Sheepshead Bay, even the neighborhood where I used to live in Bensonhurst, which was all Italian, but now it's mixed, but there's still a lot of Russian. Coney Island. Man, you don't want to go to that neighborhood and mess with those guys. Man. They're no, they're not kind. They're nice if you're nice, but if you're not, they will fucking. They're bad motherfuckers. Seriously,
Yeah.
bad.
Uh,
There's no. There is my. I have a friend I used to work with. He retired, and he used to live in Coney Island, which now is mostly Russian. And during COVID, they didn't close any of the stores down. He said he goes, go to that section, and everything's still open, because there are they have tremendous pull with organized crime and so on and so forth. Those type of people you don't want to mess with. Period. End of story. Matter of fact, I remember going looking for a car, and I went to this car dealership, and I heard Russian accents. I turned around and walked out. I was, fuck this! I deal with these people.
But so that's one of the things I wanted to ask you. I forgot, that you
Yeah,
talk a lot with a lot of these mob guys and stuff.
yeah.
Is there still like a mob, Italian mob in New York?
There is, but it's it's a shell of itself, and they have a different code now. They don't. There's a no-kill law because these guys, majority of them that are captains or made members, the majority, 40 is young in that world. Majority of these guys are over 50, and they don't want to do 20, 30, 40 years. So they stay away from drugs. They stay away from murder, and the majority of them have legitimate businesses. And then alongside the legitimate businesses, they might have loan sharking, or they might have bookmaking, but it's nothing like it used to be. It's a shell of what it was. It used to be when I was growing up and I lived in Brooklyn, like you knew who the gangsters were in the neighborhood. I can tell and it was there were shootings and killings and beatings and stabbings and whatnot because you got out of line, and that's what happened. But so many guys are um, going to jail. And they snitch, they turn state's evidence because they don't want to do 20, 30, 40 years, and they turn each other over. So, the guys, they'll do 3 years, 5 years, 8 years. Okay, fine. I'll do that. But when they refer to it as football numbers, once you get to 20, 30, 40, forget it.
So the
They don't
main
want
thing
to do
that
that.
broke down the Italian mafia in New York was like the feds, the racketeering laws, those new sentencing
Yeah.
guidelines.
The racketeering laws really is what hurt them. If they could prove that you're part of organized crime, I think it adds like another 10 years to you, immediately. And Giuliani was the one that really cracked the code. But it's not only them; it was the fact that these guys, now they're second, third, fourth generation Italian, and the old school gangsters. They would die in jail. This was their code. That's it. I don't talk, and they would die in jail. For a great example of that is Tough Tony, Tony Salerno. But the newer guys like, fuck this, I'll turn state's evidence, I'll go into the witness protection program. You don't even have to go into the witness protection program. There are guys that I've interviewed or will be having on, and they turn state's evidence and they move right back to the same neighborhood as they used to live. But the guys like Tony Salerno was a great example of that. He was from Harlem, and he went to prison in the early '80s, and he was the supposed boss of the Genovese crime family. But the real boss of the Genovese crime family, as everybody knows now, is Vinny the Chin. But Vinny the Chin wasn't on the street. And he did not want to be on the street. And he wouldn't talk on the telephone. And he would live in his mother's apartment. I've actually interviewed Rita Gigante, his daughter. But Tony Salerno was the acting boss on the street. And he took that very, very serious. There are tapes that you could listen to, audio tapes that you could hear. He's complaining. I'm out here risking my fucking life, and I'm so on and so forth. And he's back home in his apartment, all safe, and so on and so forth. But as soon as they arrested him, died in jail.
Wow.
That's it. But those guys are gone. They're gone.
Yeah, well, it shows like the desperation of the feds at the time, the deals that they were giving people. I know I read like that Martorano's book, the Hitman. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they gave straight killers deals, and now they're
Mm-hmm.
walking free, and it's just unheard of. I'm like, so this guy killed 20 people, and you're gonna give him a deal
Yeah.
because of testifying? They're like, yeah, we want him to testify no matter what. We'll give him a deal. And it's just like,
All the time. There was a guy. Uh, this was probably the worst. There was a guy named Joe Messino, and he was the boss of he was the boss of the Bonanno family, and he was going to jail forever. And he was the head of the Bonanno family, and he made a deal, and he gave away. One of the guys that he gave away was a guy named Vinny Gorgeous, who was the acting boss out when he was on the street, and plenty of other guys. And he's in the witness protection program. He's free, and he just gave up anybody they asked him to. you know, and it happens all the time. You know, obviously the most famous one is Sammy Gravano. He killed 18 people or 20 people, and you know, he was free for a long time. Now he's doing his podcast and so on and so forth. And these are guys that are straight murderers, but they will do anything to get to whomever they want to get to, and
Yeah,
that's
there's a
really
lot
it.
of those old mob guys got YouTube channels and stuff now. I
Yeah,
see them.
well, they can't
I
go
see
back
like
to what
Sammy
they
the
used to.
Bull. You've seen that guy?
Yeah, Sammy the Bull, Sammy Gravano is the guy I was talking about. There's Mike
Oh, okay.
Frances. There's John Alight. Uh, there's another guy I'm having on, actually, Gene Borello. There's a lot of them. And these guys were especially John Alight. John Alight was a straight killer. He was never made because he was Albanian, but he came up with Gotti and Gotti Jr. He was Gotti Jr.'s friend, but he was around John Gotti since, you know, high school, or dropped out of high school. And he was around him since he was 14 years old. And this guy was a straight, fucking serious, tough guy killer. And I worked with a guy that lived in his neighborhood in Queens. And he told me, when I told him that, because I was on his podcast in Florida, and he actually said that guy used to run the whole neighborhood. Everybody knew who he was. And this guy, and you can check it out too. Like, you know, the stories that he tells are now public knowledge. Once you get arrested, you can't be tried for the same thing twice, so you can talk about it. And he talks about, you know, stabbing guys, beating guys, killing guys. He did 2 years in prison in Brazil, because when they finally caught him, because he was on the run, and they caught him in Brazil, so he was in a Brazilian prison before they took him back here. And then he wasn't. I think he did 16 years in prison, and then he didn't turn state's evidence till John Gotti Jr. did. And he was like, "Well, what am I? Why am I sitting here if the boss is ratting?" You know?
Jesus.
Yeah. And I had dinner with him. His was really funny, and I had dinner with him, and we were, because I went to Florida to be on his channel, because a friend of mine arranged that I go on his channel to promote my channel. So I immediately took the opportunity, went down there, and afterwards we went to dinner, and there was a couple of us, and he told me this story, and you're talking to him, like, you could tell he's a rough dude, like you could see it in him, but he's sociable and he's nice and so on and so forth and blah blah blah. And he told a story. He said that Gotti wanted this one particular guy dead, and this is Gotti Senior, and he was about 19 or 20 years old or something like that at the time, and he wanted it done outside the guy's house. So it was a snowstorm, and he waited. It was him and somebody else, and they were in the car, and they waited for this guy. And the guy comes out of the house, and I don't know what kind of gun he's got, but he empties the gun in the guy's chest, and the guy falls into the snow. And he takes out a knife because he's going to cut the guy's throat. And when he takes out a knife, a neighbor comes out of the house and starts screaming. So he points the gun at the neighbor, but he's got no bullets left. But the guy runs inside, and then before he touches his toe, he jumps in the car and they leave. The guy survived. The guy actually survived because I guess he didn't hit any vital organs, or I think he shot him 9 times or something ridiculous, you
Jeez.
know. And the guy actually survived. And I'm sitting here eating dinner with this guy in Florida, and I'm like, wow, I'm sitting here with a straight killer.
Yeah. And it's
But
just crazy how these guys are walking free when you got some other dude
oh
that
yeah,
killed one person and
oh
they're
yeah,
doing
oh
life.
yeah, yeah. It's unbelievable. It's like
It was like the Wild West those days.
it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. You know, you can have certain people that do something terrible, and they're out the next day, and they just released those migrants that beat up the cops the next day, and then they left once they were released. I think they went to California, and then there was that MMA fighter who tried to kill the guy who uh, who molested his 5-year-old son. I forgot
Hmm.
the guy's name,
I remember that.
and the guy was out the next day, and you know, his wife called the police, so he did the right thing first. But once they released him, he was like, "Nah, they're not on my watch." And he grabbed his gun, and I think he shot the father instead or something like that by
Yeah.
mistake. He did a year or two in jail before he was released and whatnot. But it's just like, dude, you're letting these guys, you're letting a pedophile out in 24 hours. That's your punishment. That's your
Yeah.
punishment.
Just shows you that justice is supposed to be, blind, whatever you want it, like, equal, but it's not.
It's
It
not.
depends on your attorney, your money you got, what information you may have that they want,
What state you're in?
what state you're in,
What state you're in?
and it
Because
can
that was
make all the difference.
California. Yeah, absolutely. New York and California seems to be the well, no, New York, California, I think Chicago, Detroit, they seem to be the worst when it comes to, disciplining crime, you know.
So you mean like New York doesn't discipline enough?
No, not at all. I mean, think about it. Like when those four migrants were beating up the cops, none of the cops draw their guns. None of them drew their fucking, nightsticks. They don't have the tasers or anything like that. They were like fighting them. I mean, you're the police. Somebody should be fearful that you're going to get shot, but they don't. They don't pull it because they know everything is on camera. They have body cams, there's surveillance everywhere, and they know they would be in the wrong if they did something like that. So they just take the beating. These guys go to jail for a day or two and they're released. And it's just like, this is ridiculous, man. It's just fucking ridiculous, But listen, man, it is what it is.
Oh yeah. I mean, I just saw this video talking about this dude that was an illegal immigrant and he kept getting DUIs, but they kept releasing him. And so
Yeah,
eventually he hit a family, killed a woman and her son,
yeah.
right? He's drunk as a skunk. So now he's in jail. But the point was that the Republicans tried to push this law that said anybody that's an illegal immigrant that gets arrested gets deported automatically. And the
That's
Democrats
how it
voted
should be.
against it.
Of course.
And it's like, well, how much sense does that make? Why have a law? Why are they illegal immigrants if you're not going to send them back? And I see those videos, right? I don't know if you ever see them with the Border Patrol or whatever in Canada, and they're giving people that trying to cross the third degree, that are trying to
Hmm.
cross illegally, and they fucking give them all these questions. Where you going? Let me look through your bags. I'm like, so you're doing that to the people that have the visa, but the illegal
Yeah.
immigrants are just coming in.
Yeah. Well, to come around full circle now, I see that happening in bodybuilding. There are bodybuilders that come from different countries and have a hard time getting visas, and they want to come to the States and compete in the Olympia and compete in the Arnold Classic, and they can't. They have a hard time. They have a hard time getting visas. Meanwhile, the southern border is completely open, and they're flooding in like nobody's business. And these guys, like there's a guy named Nexilla, Rubiel, I forgot his name. He can't get a visa. He was invited to do the All Classic. He's not going to be able to do it. I mean, Hadi Chupin had a really, really tough time. He had to prove that he was employed in a United States company, which he does now because he is employed through his trainer who has, I forgot the name of the supplement company. He can come here on a work visa. But there are plenty of guys that are just want to compete. Let me come to the States for a week, and they can't. They
That's
can't. They
crazy.
just
They don't let
eh,
Nick
eh,
Zilla over here. That's just
yeah.
sad.
They would not. Yeah, he's having trouble getting a visa. There's plenty of them. There's a ton of them. Either they come from the Middle East, they come from Russia, come from Brazil, whatever the case may be, and they try to enter legally, and they can't do it. They can't. Meanwhile, New York City is going to be handing out credit cards to illegal migrants, with I think $56 million for you to go and spend money and whatnot.
Yeah, it's New York and California. California just did a thing where illegal immigrants get free healthcare.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's just
yeah. It's
it's
unbelievable.
craziness.
It really is. I New York City 10, 15, 20 years ago, uh, it was people wanted to come here to visit. You came here in the summertime, or if you came here in during the holidays, it was people from all over the world. It was safe. The crime was at an all-time low. There was people wanted to shop here and go to the restaurants, and it was like the place to go to travel to. And now that is almost completely gone uh, because of the crime rate going up, because of the migrants, the stories that these people are hearing, and just go, oh, we'll just go someplace else.
Oh yeah,
You
my
know,
wife and I were down in New York to see the tree years ago. Right,
yeah.
you know that area? What's it called? Like where they got the.
Rockefeller Center.
There you go. So
Yeah,
as soon as it became the evening, everywhere you go, like you go around every corner, there was some dude asking you if you wanted drugs. It was
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah,
During the
yeah,
day, there's a bunch of cops. As soon as it starts becoming evening, it just becomes a different animal. And I was like, I'm
yeah.
surprised because this is like a very touristy area.
Right, right, right,
Yet
right,
there's these
right.
guys just selling drugs openly, and I'm like, damn.
Who was the mayor when you went down there? Was it Bloomberg?
It was like 4 years ago.
Oh, it was four. Oh no, 4 years ago it was what's his name? Yeah, no, forget it. It was done by that point. It was done by that. When Giuliani was around, I mean, it was at the crime was at an all-time low. He cleaned up the whole city, and then Bloomberg pretty much kept it on the straight and narrow. Once the fuck is his name? I forgot his name. He's Italian too. I can't remember his name. Once he came in, and once the Democrats started coming in, and they started changing everything around, and it just went to shit. And
That's a
it's
real
like almost
shame.
an, it really is. It really is. And what's fun? What's the worst part is the majority of the crime is just kids. They're just kids. They're high school kids. That because I think you can't be prosecuted for less than $900 if you shoplift. I think it's less than $900 if you shoplift. So, and who's really keeping fucking count, too? Really, right? Like, so these kids are going out and they loot. There's no, you know, you know, there's no correction being made. There's no discipline or anything like that. And if they get arrested, they get right out. Most of the time, the cops just do what they can to chase them away. They also limited. Cops are limited. They can't do anything that will. They can't put you in any kind of hold that will cut off air supplies. So they can't get you in a chokehold. They can't get you in a hold where you around the diaphragm. They can't put a knee on the back anymore if they're trying to handcuff you. It's becoming increasingly difficult. For some reason, New York City cops don't have tasers. I don't know why. I mean, I would think that would be perfect for if you don't want that. You don't want them to draw their guns. At least
Yeah.
give them tasers.
That's just
And
crazy. New York
it's
City
just,
is
and
tough.
yeah, it really is. It
Do you
really,
ever
really
think
is
about leaving?
all the time. But I'm tied here to my career because I have to be a New York resident in order to be here for my career. You know,
And family, your wife, everybody.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Everybody's now. Don't get me wrong. Where I live is very nice. You got to go into the heart of New York City, but it's still there. You know, if I were to go into New York now, I wouldn't stay past 10 o'clock. Put it that way. If we wanted to go to dinner or something like that,
Even if you're in Manhattan?
yeah, no, Manhattan is the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, Manhattan's definitely
The whole
definitely the
thing is a
worst.
shit show.
Yeah, it's going back to the 70s. It's going back to the 19. You're seeing graffiti now. You never used to see graffiti before. If you have a chance, watch Giuliani. He was on Valuetainment. He was on the PBD podcast, and he discussed how he actually brought New York to where it was when he was mayor, and how he did it, and so on and so forth, and how he used modern technology. And we're talking in the 90s, how he used modern technology. So I'm sure he could use it now, but it's just the Democratic policies, and the district attorney's a Democrat, and so on and so forth. And it's just so loose on crime that the kids are doing whatever they want.
Yeah.
It's fucking sad, man. But it's the truth. It used to be a beautiful, beautiful city. I used to take girls on dates to Times Square and whatnot because it was like little Las Vegas. The whole place was lit up, and so on and so forth. And there'd be magicians on the street, and artists on the street, which I'm sure is still there. But at the same time, you got to be careful of these, of crime. It
Yeah.
sucks, but it's the truth.
And it's going downhill, so it's not going to get better anytime soon.
No, it's not going to get any better.
Yeah. That's why I left the Northeast. I love PA. I love that area, but it's just getting to be too much. Florida is a little bit better. They're
Yeah,
more
a
chill
lot of
here.
people are. A lot of people are leaving, man. I don't know if you know this, but this is first time in American history that the majority of major companies are now located in the South in the United States and not in the Northeast. They used to always be Philadelphia, New York, Boston, and not anymore. Now they've all moved to, the Midwest of the South.
Oh yeah, a lot of Texas is gone. A lot like
Yeah,
Austin. A lot of guys
yeah,
are going to Austin or they're
yeah.
going to Florida. No state
Texas and
income
Florida are the
tax.
two big ones. Yeah, yeah, right. Texas and Florida are the two big ones where everybody's headed to. Well, man, if people, if people don't change, see, New York City and California is going to be rough because they're always going to vote Democrat because they're in a bubble, you know. Like I'm not a Democrat or a Republican, right? I vote for who I think is going to do the best job, and just unfortunate that what you're doing is what's happening is I think the majority of the country is waking up. You know, you're making middle of the road Democrats, not radical leftist Democrats, going, this is crazy.
Oh
They're
yeah.
going, this is nuts. I'm going to be I'm going to go to I'm going to be a Republican. That's it.
Yeah, you guys got that AOC right down there in New York.
Yeah,
Oh my God,
yeah,
she's something
she's
else.
something else. Yeah. Well, but unfortunately, man, hopefully, maybe things will get better if Trump gets back in office, or maybe we get a Republican governor in New York or whatnot. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope
It's
so.
gonna be both. All right, brother. Listen, I am gonna go actually hang out with my wife, order some food, maybe watch some kind of shitty movie,
Hey, that sounds
and
good, man.
yeah.
Absolutely.
First of all, I want to thank you for having me on. Um, uh, it's a pleasure. It truly is a pleasure
Oh,
being on your channel, man.
my honor.
And
Pleasure's all mine.
I admire you greatly. You were on my channel about a year ago, and I just I admire somebody like yourself who has built a YouTube channel and is so successful. And you're Italian, so I like that even better.
Well,
But
thank
thank you
you, man.
very much, sir.
Thank you. I'll put links to your channel in the description, and I'll do a little editing. I'll have this up hopefully today, and we'll go
Great.
from there. Any other time you want to come on, please do. Hey, thank you. Have a good one, man. All right. Ciao.